Yeah.
And I think that's a great idea on the surface of the academic institution. But the thought is that they come in with their first draft on their contract. It's a commercial license. They can't help it themselves.
Yeah.
So those are very direct negotiations. The institution has to be clean because it's really wasting everybody's time if we can't have things like great publication.
Right. And I totally agree. What I also would recommend is that you don't so much start with the legal department of a pharma company. Go to the business development groups who, business development groups are sort of the overseers of what's in the pipeline and what their particular company needs. The other thing is to go to venture groups within pharma companies. So we work a lot with J&J Ventures, and the folks that we work with, they meet with the business development teams across all of the business units to understand what's needed. So work with the business, because the business development people will make the business case why a J&J would want to partner with you, rather than, okay, here's the, here's the legal contract, take it or leave it. When you've got the BD people saying, here's why we want this, you want them in your corner.
Yeah, the relationship is that development relationship, not
Yeah.
first.
Right, and so I would also recommend, so how do you know who's who within those companies? There's a lot of magazines that I like. Life Science Leader is a pretty good magazine. It's free. It's lifescienceleader.com, and I don't own any part of it. Just to tell you that up front. And there are a lot of great articles being written by business development groups, and also Nature magazine. So Nature Biotechnology has a section called Bioentrepreneur, which is also very helpful.
You mentioned about valuations and being realistic about that, and I think that's an important point, because we all lose our it was about company A was valued at valuation $10 million, $12 million. And then the researcher finds out that the company was valued $4 million. That's important to me.
So if I could, so valuations are, it's strategy, and your typical, your life science valuation model looks at a couple of different components. One is what phase that you're currently in, how much money do you need to get through that phase, what's the probability of success in getting to that next phase, and then the next component is what would peak sales be in that peak sales year if you would to commercialize it, and then you use a discounted cash flow. But you've got to be really accurate on the numbers. It's not this, to your point.
It's not a science?
It is and it isn't. It all depends on the the potential acquirer's position in the market and what they're trying to accomplish, right? So if someone has just failed a phase 3 trial, they're very anxious to get something back in the pipeline that has a good chance of success. And they're willing to pay more for it.
So anyway, let's get some comments from some of those graduates.
I would just, the caveat to that, I think, is that you gotta get the probabilities right. And they're usually a lot lower than people think.
Yeah.
So, we've seen entrepreneurs development looked like they were going to be winners, but because they can't get comfortable with, dealing with what real probability of failure is,
Yeah.
they're insisting on valuations that are just not market.
Yeah.
I mean, and especially for early stage companies where you're just entering phase one, or even if you just got tox data, you just, the likelihood that it's going to proceed to a commercial product is extremely low. Unfortunately, just given the FDA, it's not getting any easier to get approval by the FDA.
And many of the things that we've been talking about, like today, and ones in that same stage, you're way before being able to apply any analytical tools. You're dealing with seat of the pants. There's no analytical way to say, the work I've done is worth $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million. You get it, you're so removed from actual marketing that applying a probability and trying to do something analytical is very difficult. It's more of the qualitative view of having a partnership, who's going to be doing what are fair ownership relationships at the early stages. As you get further down and you get to a pre-IND, to a phase one, to a phase two, it becomes more and more rigorous as to how those numbers can be calculated, and sometimes they obviously get richer as the milestones are progressed, but the acquirers and the licensees have processes for how they're going to figure this out and make a bid. But the early stage stuff is a lot harder to do, if at all, analytically.
And one thing people often forget about is the fact that if you're looking at something that's commercializing a product in 7-8 years, you have no idea what the competition is doing.
Right.
Scott, any comments?
You're worth what someone's willing to pay for you, and you could have something that spins straw into gold, but if you can't get anybody to give you any money, it's worth nothing. I think if you start thinking about discounted cash flow analysis with your early stage company and trying to back model stuff and so on and so forth, you're gone, you're done. And also, I think that the most important thing that you can have as an entrepreneur is the ability to say no to people. So if somebody says, yeah, I'm really interested, I want to go into due diligence, and you think that you're in good shape, you're lost. If you have the ability to say no to an investor, that investor gets a lot more interested in you, right? It's called sexy indifference, right? And if you think you have 2 investors that are interested in you, you're still not doing it right. You need to keep going and keep going and keep going. When an investor doesn't make $1 by paying $1 for $1, right? So if they know that they're the only game in town, you're in trouble, because then they can either wait you out until you run out of money and then buy you out of bankruptcy, or they before you even walk in the door, they're bidding you 40% of what they think you're worth. So the ability to say no and to keep fundraising even when you think you have funding in place is probably a real key thing to driving a halfway decent valuation for yourself.
So,
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's really, it's putting together the right protocol, the right endpoints, validating that those are in fact smart, achievable endpoints. So that's, and then patient recruitment. Like I said before, it's rare that the compound fails the patient. You've got to get everything right. That's the problem.
so we're just about out of time. We have maybe time for one more question if there's Ken had his hand up, I'm sorry.
This question for Larry. You mentioned the payer several times, and we know there's a lot of product in FDA approval, but marketplace fail. I just wonder, can you talk a little bit more about FDA say yes, but payer say no? What do you mean by payer say no?
Right, so insurance companies will reimburse for products if they deem it worthwhile. So if your compound is just as good as as what they're currently reimbursing for, there's no big reason for them to reimburse it.
Unless you're cheaper.
unless you're cheaper, right. So again, it's the improving patient outcome and reducing costs. So one of the areas in pharmacoeconomics is, is it more efficacious? Is it a 1 pill a day versus 3? So you have to have the payers on board, both CMS, which is Medicaid, Medicare, and the private payers. And meet with them early. They'll tell you what they need to see. And to everyone's point here, you need to know what the competition is doing. So is your device or compound, is it a shorter hospital stay because of using your product? How is it going to reduce cost? That's the only way that payers will. So it's got to be either that much better, that much more efficacious, and if you don't, there were at least 20 companies at the end of last year that got FDA approval and did not get reimbursement, or got a letter from CMS saying, we're not approving this for reimbursement, we need to see more data. So.
Any other comments on that question? Okay, well, thank you all for attending. I want to thank especially all of our presenters this morning, Nick and Lloyd and John. Great job by everybody. I want to thank again our panelists, Larry, Steve, Greg, and Scott. Excellent discussion this morning. Especially I want to thank Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, my friend John Maroney, for helping put all this together and for making all of the scientists and other resources available. Our sponsors again of the Long Island Capital Alliance, my firm Abraham Spencerman, Lyft, Insperity, Carter DeLuca, Citron Cooperman, Executive Strategies Group, Ruskin Moscow, Deloitte, and MarketWire. Our next Capital Forum will be Friday, September 13th. We're going to focus on consumer products. We look forward to seeing you all there. Have a great summer.